There's 1 year for every team. It exists from September until May, and that's it. And then that one's over, and there's a new team the next year, right? And so we didn't come into this year saying we want to repeat, because we're not repeating anything. That was some other team that did that.
From the campus of Our Lady's University, this is For Good, Stories from Notre Dame, a behind-the-scenes glimpse into life under the Golden Dome and the powerful stories that drive Notre Dame to become a force for good in the world.
Hello and welcome to For Good, Stories from Notre Dame. One of the most beloved traditions surrounding Notre Dame athletics is the #1 sign that overlooks campus from the top of Grace Hall. The lights of the sign are only illuminated when one of Notre Dame's 26 varsity sports earns the #1 ranking, and it remains lit for as long as we hold on to that top spot. Well, the sign has been glowing for over 2 years now, thanks in large part to the phenomenal success of the Fighting Irish men's lacrosse program and its back-to-back national championships. Today, we are thrilled to be joined by Coach Kevin Corrigan, the Bomber family head men's lacrosse coach. Kev, thanks so much for being with us. Excited to ask you a few questions. So I'm going to change things up right from the start. Not that you knew how it was going to begin anyways, but walking over here, I saw the beautiful tribute that you have to the Native American origins of this sport and how it's called the creator's game. Can you talk a little bit about how you've tried to integrate the native origin of this sport, which I believe it says out there is the longest played sport on this land, and into today's kind of modern version of the game?
Yeah, I think everyone in lacrosse has a particularly strong affinity for and connection to the Native American roots of our game. And it's still an important thing today.
Yeah.
And in fact, a couple years ago, we had the chance when we were playing Syracuse to visit the Onondaga Reservation, and Alf Jacques, who was one of the last of the stick makers of the old wooden sticks that were in the Native American tradition. He took us to his house and his workshop and showed us sticks in various stages of, like, literally saplings that he had just cut down all the way to a finished product. And it's very, very cool. But everybody in our sport really holds on to that. It's something that's a unifying thing in our sport, and I think it also speaks to the values that people believe in our sport, right? And it's called the creator's game. It's also known as a medicine game, and in essence a game of healing. But it was also used as preparation for war. So there was a competitive side to it. There was a spiritual side to it, and I think you find that it's something of that nature in every lacrosse program.
Yeah, I feel privileged. I grew up along the Iroquois Confederacy in Western New York, and about 15% of my public school were made up of the Seneca Indians, and the Tonawanda Reservation was just a couple miles from my house, and they still play on Friday nights. They have a league out there, and because of the Native American population, we've won a bunch of state championships in our high school, because there's so many that just grow up with the game.
Yeah, I had a super cool opportunity when I was about 26 years old. There's a book out there, Thomas Venham, who was an ethnomusicologist at the Smithsonian, but had grown up next to a reservation, was very in tune with what was going on, and he wanted to do kind of the book on the origins of lacrosse, right? Yeah. And so he wrote a book called Little Brother of War, and as he was researching this book, he needed somebody who could kind of cross the worlds. He didn't know anything much about lacrosse.
Yeah.
He just knew the Native American origins of it and the importance of it to Native American culture. So that's why he wanted to do the book. So I had the chance to go up with him. We spent about 4 days up in the Six Nations, both in the U.S. and up into Canada,
right.
in the native lands, and went to box games and everything else. But one of the coolest things that we did, we were driving through the Onondaga Reservation, and literally there's a game going on in the backyard, and they have wood box set up and with chicken wire around it, and there's 4 generations of this family out there playing a game. Just playing. There was nothing, that scheduled or anything else. We just were driving by and saw that and pulled over, and it was so amazing. But it's still a part of their culture. It's still a part of the life there, as you know.
Well, I love the fact that you keep that lineage, from the start to today, very much a part of the current game and its experience. So I have to say that for anybody watching, make no plans for your Memorial Day weekends. We got to keep pressure on this coach here, but for the last 2 Memorial Day weekends, my family and I have traveled to Philadelphia. Is it going to be in Philadelphia again this year?
No, it's going to be in Boston this year.
It's going to be in Boston, okay. And we've had these incredible weekends following you guys in the Final Four, and it's just been incredible to see back-to-back national championships. And so my first question then to you about capping off another national championship season is, how has the world changed for you? You've been in your 4th decade as coach. Is it changed? Are people laughing a little harder at your jokes, or how has it changed?
Well, you still won't pick up a tab, so it hasn't helped with that. It really hasn't changed that much. I mean, to be honest with you, it's lacrosse.
Yeah.
I'm not getting world media attention or anything like that. It does make it, it's the single best thing about it, besides experiencing it with the kids and in those moments on the field and in the finals, is the connection to the alumni. There's one thing about being at a school for, now in my 37th year, is that almost all the alumni are guys that I coached. And to have that connection become so real and so visceral, because everyone, that first championship, just everyone felt a part of it. And it was such a cool thing. And so that has changed, because it really has reconnected me with so many of those guys, or kept me connected to them in so many ways in the last couple of years. That's been super fun.
Yeah. Now, I did ask this question to you over dinner, and I do think I picked up the check at that dinner, but who's counting? But nevertheless, I did ask you the question. You said something that was really powerful to me, and you said, I think what's changed is my mentality is, how do I leverage this platform, this moment for good?
Yeah.
And so to say a little bit more about back-to-back national championships, what's running through your mind about how you leverage this?
That's not a change. I've always been looking at it and saying, how do we leverage the time we spend with our guys? How do I found a quote here my first year from Newt Rockney, and he said, and I'll paraphrase because I couldn't recite it exactly, but he said something to the effect of 4 years of football at Notre Dame is designed to instill more of the ingredients of success in a young man than virtually any class he's going to take at Notre Dame. And it doesn't mean that what we do is more important. It doesn't mean that this is their future or anything else. What it means to me, and what I took it as, is there's a responsibility, because these kids are going to come to Notre Dame, this great institution with all these amazing people, so many just, as and interview and everything else, just amazing people on the world stage. But I'm the guy that's going to talk to them 5 to 6 days a week for 4 years.
Right.
They're going to hear my voice, and they're going to understand and come to appreciate, to whatever extent, the values of our program better than anywhere else, because they're just going to be articulated on a daily basis with them. And so that's a huge responsibility. And I've always looked at it like that I've got to leverage that time with them. I've got to leverage the impact that I have on them, to help them have that impact on the world and on their world. Yeah. And so, that has always been the approach. Now, how does that change with with championships, I mean, certainly we get a little bit more attention, you know, whether it's more people at our games or opportunities to do some things that we haven't had before. You know, we had a chance this summer to go to the White House, for goodness sake, right? And just to meet our guys in the middle of the summer and spend the day in Washington, D.C. and go to the White House and something like that. The impact of things that you can do has probably grown because I'm getting more opportunities to and you know what, some people take my calls that might not have, you know, a couple years ago. Might put me on the pay no mind list. I'll get back to that guy.
All right. So when you think 2 years ago, the Final Four is intense. The comeback victory over UVA it's a miraculous 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and it looks like all things are lost and we're sick to our stomach, and then you come back with this miraculous win, and then in a close but convincing victory over the other powerhouse of the modern era, Duke, you win the championship. But this past year, I mean, you win decisively. I mean, the team wins convincingly, and I don't know a lot about lacrosse, but there's a lot of close games in the sport. And the games through this time. So my question, and maybe it's an unfair question, but you're a good friend, so I don't care, was this one of the most dominant teams to ever play college lacrosse?
Yeah, I'm not probably the one to speak to that. I will say, of teams I've seen, this team at the end of the year was playing lights out and was really convincingly beating people. You know, it's funny. Everything in retrospect looks a little differently. I remember after we lost to Georgetown early in the year, and then we got number 2 Maryland in the next game, and all I can remember thinking is, oh my God, we could be 1-2, and I think we have this really good team, and we could start off the year 1-2, you know, very easily here, having lost that game, and instead, you know, we come back and win that one, and from that point on, we started playing really well. But it was really the ACC tournament where I for the first time said, okay, we're the best team right now, I think, you know, and you know, the only thing I was worried about at that point was, do our guys tighten up and pucker up, thinking, oh my God, all we can do is screw this up now, and thankfully they never did. They kept playing with that hunger.
The first game in the tournament is against Albany, home, right? Yeah, and they were a little tight. They're coming off.
Well, we're coming off 5 days of exams,
right?
You know, and so we never play great in the first half of that first NCAA tournament game because we're always coming off 5 days of exams. The guys haven't been sleeping as well as you'd like. They haven't been, you know, we don't even practice for the first 3 days of the week, you know, because we don't want to disturb their preparation for exams and everything.
So you weren't rattled at halftime?
I was not at all rattled. You know, I mean, we obviously knew we had work to do, but we felt like, all right, this is, you know, we've been back together. Let's relax and go out there and play. And that was the only time from that point on that we were really in that situation. And
okay, we're going to go a little
different than the year before, where you know, we weren't the best team. We won the championship, and you know, deservedly for the games we had to win at the end and everything. I wouldn't have argued with anybody that said we weren't the best team. Last year, I think we were. Yeah, and that was a little different.
Yeah. So the championship game, we're there. The national anthem is sung, and as soon as it's over, we got a 2-hour rain delay. Yeah, and your challenge would seem to me to be to try to keep the team both focused and loose in that 2-hour unexpected, you know, delay. We're at Lincoln National Stadium, and my understanding is that you share a little story about the former president, the 16th president, as a way to motivate the team. Can you share with us what you had to say?
You know, it's more just about, at that point, you're not worried about the focus. Yeah. You know, I mean, you're just not. It's a national championship game. Right. You know, you're worried about can guys relax and be at their best. And, and so, you know, I kind of I told him a story. I said, we walked by the Lincoln Room on the way out to the field, and I said, it reminded me of you know, something that Lincoln said when the war was really getting tough and everybody was down, and he, you know, he had everybody's attention, and he said, hey, ground balls win games. And that was, so the guys were just like, okay, all right, whatever, okay, but it was just
meant to loosen them up.
Let's go out there and play. We know what we're doing. They're not looking for Newt Rockney at that moment. You know what I mean? They just want to get out there and play. And and that was kind of the same way we approached it, that rain delay. Yeah. I wasn't worried about them losing the edge. It's the national championship, for goodness sakes. Once we come out that tunnel, you see 35,000 people and know that the TV lights are on and everything. You're not gonna lose the edge. I was worried about them holding on too tight. I mean, you can hold a fist for 5 minutes, right? But you hold a fist for 2 hours, and it starts to get hard, right?
Exactly.
So we went into the locker room, and I said, turn the music up, relax. We're not going anywhere for an hour and a half, at least. I'll come back and let you know in an hour and a half what's going on. And so that was, I think it turned out to be the right approach. You never know, right? You just, you're winging it at that point. Nobody's really been in that situation that I knew of. So we just, we said that. But I wasn't worried about our guys getting tuned back in again. You
didn't have the, in my opinion, you didn't have the best line of the day. The best line of the day was your chaplain, Father Chris. Walking out of the field before the game, and he looks at the three referees that are standing there, and knowing how volatile you can get on the sideline, he turns to the referees and he says, when he's screaming at you, what he's really saying is, I love you. My understanding is the refs loved it. They thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. So you get a chaplain, comedian, he does it all, loosens up the refs for you and everything. What keeps you going in your 37th year? What motivates you? Is it a third national championship? What is it that drives you?
It was never championships in that sense that I never felt like we were a failure for never winning one. I felt disappointed that we hadn't got one because we'd been so close and all of that. But I never felt like that was failure. My motivation every year is it's this. Every team exists once, right? It's not. It's easy to look back over 37 years and talk about this or that, this period or something. There are no periods. There's 1 year for every team. It exists from September until May, and that's it. And then that one's over, and there's a new team the next year, right? And so it was that approach has always been the way we looked at it. We didn't come into this year saying we want to repeat, because we're not repeating anything. That was some other team that did that. That was wonderful, and some of you guys were part of it, but that was not this team that did anything. So we haven't done a thing, and it's the same approach we'll take this year going in. But it's the same approach we took after a year where we were disappointed. Is don't drag that into the new year, because that was last year's team. For me personally, I don't know. I love the challenge of doing what I do. There's some parts of coaching, Lou, that are Groundhog Day, right? You got to go out there to practice on Tuesday and do certain drills or do certain things that you have to do to prepare your team for the season or prepare for that week's game or whatever. And if that was your only focus, I could see getting to a point where you just kind of burned out on that, because that's not, but that's just a small part of the focus. The other focus is how do we, motivate our guys and create in them aspirations beyond the game and everything else, right? But at the same time, within the game, let's try to get to the absolute best version of ourselves that we can get to. That's the challenge. If we're good enough to win a championship, then you would try to win the championship. But some years you're just not. And so being the best version of yourself might come up short of that, and other people might see that as a disappointment. We, on the other hand, might not, The other thing, again, is going back to the previous things, how do we use the opportunity that we have here to create the absolute best experience for our guys? Right. Even when we had a very, very little budget, very limited budget, and, probably not a realistic opportunity to win a championship on a year-to-year basis, that was always the focus for us. How do we create the best experience in college athletics, right? Because we're at a great university. I mean, I'm disappointed in myself sometimes that I'm not aggressive enough with people on campus to get them to come over and talk to my team, right? And say, hey, this is one of the top
Yeah.
biologists in the country, or this is why, and we do that. I've chased a few professors around here, in fact, I finally caught up with a guy named Matt Bloom, who was in our business school, and had a great conversation with him 2 weeks ago in Denver when he saw that I was going to be in Denver, and he called me and said, "Hey, we tried for 5 years to get together and we never could really make it happen, but I'm in Denver, and if you're going to be here, let's have breakfast." And so I finally got to talk with him, and that talk was all about workplace contentment, workplace well-being. Kind of the discernment process for our guys is kind of what I wanted to talk to him about. Is how do I help my guys really find the right path so that they don't waste time out there? They're gonna. I know they're gonna go wherever they go. They're gonna work hard. They're gonna put themselves into it. But if it's the wrong job, it might just get them too far in the wrong direction from where they really want to be and need to be. So let's try to help them do that. But a guy like that, he's sitting on our campus for 15 years before I ever really learned about him and was able to get him to help our team in some way. So I try to do stuff like that with leveraging stuff.
I think you're a leader, not just on campus here, but nationally, in integrating all of the assets that a campus has to your student athlete experience. Let me ask you about the twin evils of success, which are hubris and complacency. You win a championship, now you win 2 championships. How much does pride and just kind of settling, maintaining, how much does that worry you and leading the team?
The humility part, in some fashion, less so, and that might surprise you, but I think the stuff that we do every day, right? Like you look around the locker room, right? This is not because somebody came in here and cleaned this place up. This is how our guys leave it every day when they leave. They take some pride in that. When we leave a visiting team's locker room, the maintenance people always say to us, you don't have to do all. I'm like, this isn't about you, but it is about you. We're showing the respect, that somebody's going to have to come in and do this, but we're not going to leave a mess for you. That's not who we are. That's not how we want to approach things. We're concerned with how our guys talk to people every day, right? Who are everybody that they confront. Well, I don't care whether they run into Father Bob or Pete, Bavaco on campus or you, or whether it's the woman in working in the dorm or the guy serving lunch at the thing. How they talk to people, how they present themselves, and all that. We're on that on an everyday basis, right? That's super important to us, and because we want them to have some gratitude and humility. I tell our guys all the time, you're all on third base, but none of you hit a triple. Yeah. You've had a lot of people, a lot of love and resources have gone into you, and a lot of your hard work too. Yeah. Don't not take pride in that. Yeah. But there's a lot of people in the world that might have done what you did with all the love and resources that have gone into you. So just be humble enough to be grateful for that, and if you can take that approach, that'll cover us on a lot of stuff, Yeah. The complacency is a harder thing because that's doing the work, that's coming out every day. That's doing the work when nobody's looking at you. We're going off on fall break now. That's going to be 10 days, 11 days that we won't see these guys, right? Yeah. And then a month after that, we're going to have another 19 days where we won't see them. Yeah. That's a month. That's 30 days. What are they doing during those 30 days? Are they, are they doing the work that it takes to be prepared to compete at their best and doing it in a way that inspires and their teammates and and all that, or are they just stepping back and doing nothing? Are they? Yeah. Show me the love. Look what I've done already, kind of thing. So that worries me more because that's just doing that work. When they're here and we can make them do the work. That's less of a concern. But it's all that other time: the summer, the fall break, the winter break. Now you go into the season. Okay, have you prepared yourself during that time? And that we'll learn.
So you come from an amazing family. You come from incredible parents, and I've had the privilege of getting to know them both. Gene, who's a kind of a legend in college sports, former athletic director at Notre Dame and UVA, and head of the ACC, and just kind of a wisdom leader in college sports over so many years. And then you have a brother who's an athletic director, another an ESPN producer. So it's in the blood. But it's your mother Lena, who I think we're most influenced by our mothers, who's, I have to say, everybody knows you for the Irish side, but it's that Italian side. Lena, who taught you how to cook and appreciate delicious meals. And you're quite an incredible Italian chef. Talk a little bit about your family influence, how it continues through today and all that you do. But then I also want to hear what you think your best dish is that you prepare.
All right. So my family, I mean, not just my parents are amazing, but I have 6 brothers and sisters. There's 7 of us, and are, the greatest thing in my life, right? Greatest blessing of my life to be born into a family like that.
Yeah.
So that, I'll say up front, just super fortunate, right? Mm-hmm. One of the great things about our family always was, and listen, my dad, when you talk about him, the jobs that he had at the end of his career, at the beginning of it, when I was born, he was the head lacrosse coach, the head soccer coach, and the assistant basketball coach at the University of Virginia. And he didn't make enough money, so in the summer he started a basketball camp so that he could make money and be able to get through the year with 7 kids. I mean, that's the honest truth. But we never felt like we were wanted for anything. Yeah. There was, I can't remember a single moment where anybody in our family, and I mean this sincerely, not a single moment where anybody felt like there was something we didn't have, where we felt like somebody had it better than us. Right. You know what I mean? Right. We had what we had, and we had each other, and we had our friends, and we all felt like we had it as well as anybody in the world. You know, I don't care. More money. What does that mean? A bigger house. We don't need a bigger house. We got no room in the house we have. I mean, it was, and that mindset, I think, is probably the greatest gift that our parents gave us. My mother she's a great cook, and she could stretch a meal like nobody. I mean, back in those days. I mean, we used to. There's a big joke in our family that my mom would make rice and milk. That was dinner. Yeah, rice cooked in milk, and it was only made when my father was out of town. And he would recruiting or doing something, and we would be like, he'd come home, we'd be like, Dad, you missed it again. Rice and milk, it was unbelievable. And he'd be like, oh my God, are you kidding me, Bertie? How could you have made rice and milk while I was gone again? Meanwhile, he's telling you ever make that stuff when I'm here? Like that's gonna be the end of it, right? Yeah. But that was how it was. We had a great time. We didn't worry about what we didn't have. He started that basketball camp, Lou, and you got to see some of the stuff that the people that he was involved with. And I mean, Jerry West was involved in this camp back in the day. It was the best basketball camp in the country at that time. There were only a couple. It was just the very beginning of camps being a big thing. And so the best ACC basketball players and coaches were there every single year, right? And it was an amazing place. But for us, we went to camp for like 3 or 4 weeks at a time, right? Yeah. So we would leave Charlottesville, and the camp was about 15 miles outside of town in Batesville. And we would leave, and Dad would drive for like an hour and a half to get to Batesville. He'd go up in the mountains and come back down because he wanted us thinking, like, you can't go home. You're here for 3 or 4 weeks, and you're not going home, so don't even ask. It's an hour and a half away. We can't do it. Meanwhile, we're like 10 minutes from town. We didn't know that. Who cared? We were there. We were all good.
That's Corrigan wisdom. I love it. I love it. One of my favorite stories with your dad is we're at Father Joyce's funeral, right? And we're sitting next to each other, and in the pew before the funeral was going to begin, and he looks at me and he says, a competitor right to the very end, and he says, you a good singer at church? And I, of course, I puff up. I can't sing for a lick, right? But I said, I can carry a tune. I'm pretty good. Says, me too. So the next thing you know, the two of us are singing at the tops of our lungs, trying to outdo each other during the Mass. And my wife is elbowing me like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? And I'm thinking, I'm not letting him beat me on the singing. And we're just going back and forth. You come from incredible stock, and you've got you and Liz have an amazing family, a growing family. And what I love about you is with all the championships, you stay anchored. You don't get caught up in the trappings of success. You know what's fundamental. You know what's important. So let me ask you, if I could, let's just say I want you to, it's a leap for you here, but this is a hypothetical. I'm an incredible high school lacrosse recruit, and you want me. Okay, I want to hear
big stretch.
Big stretch. I want to hear your pitch. What are you going to say to me to come to Notre Dame?
Our basic approach is we try to, as we do in our locker room. When I took you around and showed you things, the lacrosse to me is self-evident, right? We've had enough success that a guy knows, okay, you're being recruited into a top 10 program. They can see the facilities. They can see all those things. We spend very, very little time talking about lacrosse with our recruits. And I spend virtually none. I mean, I really don't. The assistant coaches talk more about it in detail. I talk about the experience they're going to have. I talk about the impact that Notre Dame can have on them, the impact that they can have, the impact that the kids in this room, and my belief in them and how they'll, treat those people and what a difference that'll make for them. I talk about the opportunities that'll come out of here when they leave and those kinds of things. And how we'll help connect them with that right from the beginning. We won't wait till they're seniors and say, so what do you want to do with your life? We're going to say when you're a freshman, so have you started looking, do you want to network with some people that we have, in various things around the country and that kind of thing. We'll get them involved in service and we talk about that and the importance of service to our program because it's a huge piece of that attitude of gratitude and humility that we want them to have is that they're doing service and they're doing real service. They're not just showing up places and, giving the old Queen's wave there. They're showing up, they're working with somebody, they're engaged and they're making an impact on somebody.
Yeah.
I talk about all that stuff. Yeah. And then I want you to choose us, right? I'm not trying to sell you. I'm trying to do a good job explaining what Notre Dame is, what Notre Dame can do for you. And then I want you to tell me, wow, I want to be part of that. I say, great. We want you here. You wouldn't be here visiting if we didn't want you. So now, how do we make this happen? What's the next step for us to get this going? But that's the way I'd like it to happen. I don't want to have the entitled guy who's sitting there going, well, I've been to Virginia and I've been to Duke and I've been to Johns Hopkins and I've been to Harvard. What can you do for me? I was like,
take a pass on that.
I think you're probably not the right guy for us. I think maybe we just part friends and see you down the road.
Yeah, well, it is one of the things that I think has been amazing is how much of an emphasis you put on service for your teams. Back to the days when I was working at the South Bend Center for the Homeless. Your teams were there every year volunteering, getting their hands dirty. You just won a big award from the Boys and Girls Club for the exemplary service your team has rendered. But then also, you're always working to help your students with internships, with jobs, to get them in the right careers, their career discernment. It really sets this program apart, and it speaks a lot to your leadership. Just a couple more questions. What do you think, twofold question. It seems like lacrosse is caught rapid fire throughout this country. And what do you think is the future of the professional lacrosse league? Is it going to become an opportunity for people to play full time in the near future? And then also, you've helped to grow the game a great deal nationally. What are the visions for growing lacrosse globally? Is there something that can be said for what can be done beyond the United States?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm probably not the right one to answer that one. I've been very focused, starting locally and regionally and then nationally, to try to be part of if not the group that's doing it, but maybe a U.S. Lacrosse or something where you can have some impact, working with them or. The game itself, Lou, it's such a great game, and it has grown so much in the past 3 decades. And that's been one of the great things that I've been able to be at a great seat. When we first got here, we're kind of on the outside looking in at the lacrosse world back on the East Coast. Now we're on the middle looking all around. We've got a kid on our team from Seattle, from San Francisco, from from San Diego, from Texas, from Florida, and still from all the Atlantic coast where a lot of the game comes from. So to now I consider that a victory for us in the sense that we're now in the middle of the lacrosse world, not on the outside or the edge of it. And I think I don't know why it wouldn't continue to grow. It just has such a great thing about it. There are some people in lacrosse don't want it to grow too much because there's such a great intimacy within the game, and you're a couple degrees of separation from pretty much everybody out there if you can put the right dots together and figure that out. And there's a lot to be said for that. It's a wonderful community to be part of, but it's also a great game. I can see it growing. I can see, years down the road, there being a pro league that people could do, full time as a profession and all that. But hey, like I said, when I was a kid, in 1958, the Baltimore Colts had a group of guys that used to come down and barnstorm and play basketball against college basketball teams. These were like all pros, Bob Boyd and guys like that are playing basketball to make a few bucks because they didn't make that much playing NFL football. That was 1958. So, who knows? And another 50 years down the road, why can't lacrosse be that, right? All those guys were taking extra jobs outside the NFL season like our lacrosse players are now in the PLL. Why couldn't we grow to that extent? And that's back, that growth happened, in an analog world, now you've got this digital world where everything can happen so much faster and can go viral, if you will, in a sense, and that, so I could see our game growing.
So one final question. There's so much negativity swirling around about college athletics writ large, and NIL, the transfer portal, concussions and healthcare, Title IX, that there's an inequity in what we're doing. There's a huge buzz about everything going on, and unfortunately, most of the narrative is negative. What is worth fighting for in college sports? What is still good and fundamental and true? And why do we need to get that out there more into the narrative?
Yeah. I go back to my dad on this. I mean, again, when I talk about what he was doing when I was born, right, and the arc of what he saw, change scares people, right? I mean, it's just that way. And there's always going to be a certain percentage of people that are going to look on the dark side of whatever you're doing. Yeah. And so you can't waste time with them. There's nothing wrong with listening to them to make sure that they're not telling you something you need to know. Right. But you can't get bogged down in where they are on things, because there's always going to be naysayers about anything. My dad used to always say that college sports has done more for education and poor families and families without means in this country than anything besides the GI Bill, right? And so when you look at that and you think the opportunities it is given for kids to go to schools, all over the country, the hundreds of thousands, millions of kids that have participated in college athletics, many of whom might not have even gone to college without it, right? That certainly is a worthwhile endeavor, period. You could put a stop on that and end it right there. What it does for those kids who play, what it does, the experience of, and the enriching experience. And listen, there are people that have these unbelievable experiences who are in the band. There are people who have these unbelievable experiences who give their time to service and to things like that. There are people who in laboratories who are doing unbelievable work, and that's where their passion is, and that's where their energy and effort goes, and that enhances their experience and grows them as a person in so many different ways. Yeah. The same thing that athletics does for another group of people. So we're not isolated on this island of people, who are in this passion play. We just happen, people don't want to go to a lab, right? I mean, Notre Dame would love to sell tickets to the science labs down there. We have some beautiful facilities. And if they could get 100,000 people to show up, they'd build a stadium around that too, right? But people love athletics. It brings a community together. It's a wonderful thing for the university to have, both within the university and creating community on the campus and that, but also to bring people back over the years years and all of that. I mean, there's so many. I could go on and on. You know, the connections to alumni and people who, you know, Notre Dame is a place that's famous for the way the alumni stay connected to this place, and athletics gives them one venue to do that, right, and one thing to rally around and be part of. So there's just so many different things, Lou, that I believe that college athletics does, and that's all outside of what it does for those kids who are fortunate enough to be part of a team and to have this experience of playing college athletics, because that teaches them so much in the room here as teammates, you know, dealing with you know, adversity, dealing with, you know, one of the things people talk about all the time with young people today is they're not willing to work for something. They're delayed gratification. Well, you know what? If you're an athlete, there are a lot of kids that are working their tail off for 2 and 3 years before the payoff ever comes of them getting on the field. That payoff. Right. But what they learn along the way is there's a lot of other payoffs that are happening just because you're committing yourself to something. You're working hard at it. And even if you don't get that ultimate payoff of getting on the field, you've gained something in your understanding of yourself and how you'll handle the world. And that's so valuable. So I could go on.
That's great. and I'd go back to something that you said earlier. As a coach educator, professors have a wonderful impact, but they might spend a few hours a week with a student. You, with the student athletes in your charge, you're spending 6 days a week with them over the course of 4 years. You have an undue opportunity to be able to really influence their lives and shape them in ways that will have an impact for the rest of their lives. And you in particular do it exceedingly well. And I just want to say, as a Notre Dame alum, as somebody who works here, and as somebody who considers you a good friend, I'm just so proud of you and just
thank you. That means a lot to me.
Really
Appreciate that.
Grateful for your example, and you stay amidst all the success. You stay grounded and you stay humble, and you lead the team, I think, in the right ways. So, all right.
Part of that is having Sophia Nani beat me at bocce every summer.
And smack talk you.
And smack talk me all the way and bring me back to earth.
But we're really grateful for you. So as we always close these sessions, please, wherever you're from, join us in a prayer to Our Lady, who continues to watch over and guides this place. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. You couldn't expect two Italians getting together and not having a few tears. Some good laughs along the way. Kev, thanks so much. Take care. God bless. Go Irish.
Thanks, Lou. Appreciate it. Bye.